News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Well, Joe Biden first said that Ukraine can take the ATACMS, which are long-range missile systems that fire missiles up to 190 miles from where you are firing them from. And they can hit and take out a house, or they can be used to do an expansive strike where it opens up and has bomblets come out and does up to 500 meters of a range of devastation. And so they have unleashed that, and today Ukraine struck inside of Russia, hitting a munitions depot at a base where there were reportedly North Korean missiles, weapons, all sorts of stuff that they blew up. Russia releasing today an adjustment of the nuclear policy, saying that they, in fact, can do a nuclear strike for things such as the ATACMS, not specifying them particularly, but talking about missiles and other flying vehicles, obviously referring to drones, can be used, and that, in fact, the first nuclear country that they would attack would be UK. So it's designed to frighten the allies of Ukraine into submission. And then tonight, Joe Biden having even more escalation by, after 3 years of denial, finally approving what they're called as anti-personnel mines. And for 3 years, he said, no, no, no. And now he says, yes, 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 I'm going to ship them to you. They don't even have them. We're going to ship them. What, are they going to get there in a week or two? So Biden's doing this like there's 7 weeks left. What is he doing? 2 things in a row he has said no to, now suddenly saying yes to, when Trump's coming in 7 weeks. Is he trying to start a war? By the way, I don't fear Russia launching nuclear weapons. I do fear Biden getting us into a wider, actual world war in his last waning weeks of this, because the man's an idiot. I do think that people are telling him what to do and saying, unleash it, do it now. Trump's bad. He's not going to let this happen. You got to finish it now. You got to win this now. This guy's going to do. I expect Joe to do even more stupid things over the next several weeks, like several days. You're going to see new policies unveiled. Let's do this, do that to unleash Ukraine on Russia. And he's working with Zelensky. Oh yes, Joe, you have 7 weeks. You hold my leg. Come. Kiss my ring. Come hold my leg. Give me money. Give me a weapon. I kill the Putin for you. And then Trump comes and calls him and says, listen to me, you. Yes, President, I'm so happy you win. Listen to me, you turd. Shut up. Stop this. We're going to end this thing. You're not going to get everything you want, and you're going to like it. Otherwise, you're going to be in a bad way. He always tells them, and this is a Solomonic wisdom, if then. If you do this, then this will happen. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And do you support letting Ukraine fire U.S. missiles into Russia right before Trump takes over, and now the landmines? And do you really think Putin might use nukes as a response to this? And do you think this could lead to a wider war, even a world war? And why now? Why is Biden doing this? Trying to leave a mess for Trump? Or is this his way of getting back at him? 800-288-WBAP. 3 lines open. Let's go to Sid. Sid, hello. Welcome to the WBAP.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good, sir.
So let's establish some facts. At this point, Biden has completely gone nuts. I deal with elderly people in my work all day long. He will not pass a mini mental exam. His BIMSS score will be 3, which is completely dementia. So he's definitely not in charge. The problem is the Democrats have lost so bad that they have a mass psychosis at this point. So what they want to do is leave such a bad mess to make it look like that Trump cannot handle it. Now, I have full confidence on President Trump that he will be able to handle it, but they will make it to the point that yes, Russia and Putin will be so pissed that it will make it more difficult to handle the situation.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very purposeful move because they are freakingly sore losers at this point. They don't know what hit him. They were thinking they're just going to win it like anything, you know?
Dang. I like your analysis, Sid.
Yeah. And, Ukraine is not without to blame on this. From quadrupling the tariff on the Russian gas being provided to all of the Europe, then siphoning the gas off from the pipelines, which Russia is supplying 40 billion cubic feet of gas, and Germany saying that we are only getting 30, where is that 10 billion cubic gas is going? Ukraine was siphoning it off, and they actually acknowledged that we did. And Russia kept on telling them, please don't do it. I mean, these pipelines have been there for 40 years before the fall of the Kremlin, but these were the Russian pipelines, and the whole Europe was dependent on it. And Europe was also upset on it because they are having to pay into those tariffs too. The biggest gas fields in Russia, which is the Yamal and the Siberian gas, is 50% owned by Russia, 30% by France, and 20% by Germany. So they all lose in this situation. And Putin, I don't love the guy, but he's been telling these idiots in Ukraine that, look, don't do that. And not only that, do not try to make Ukrainian language as the only language which is recognized as the legal language of the country and all the federal government. So
I have a friend.
Speaking people will just pissed,
I have a friend who's Russian / Moldovan, if you will, and she is a big supporter of Russia, not of Putin and what he's doing and what he's done to Ukraine. But she's explained to me not only the Nazi support, Nazi folks they have in Ukraine, and the Nazi brigades and such that have been we've talked about and others have talked about for years during this war, but then also of the region there of Russia of Ukraine that's in contentment, where Russia's occupying right now and such. That the people there speak Russian first, and they wouldn't let them have a parade for Russian pride or some kind, and it's led to them wanting to break off at least a good chunk of them, and that's some of the areas where Russia is right now. But this is not just some simple thing that just happened one day. That's like, oh my gosh. But I appreciate your analysis, Sid. It was well worth taking your call, sir. I appreciate you.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you. You too, brother. Aaron Weatherford, WBAP. Welcome.
Hey, Chris. Hey, I have maybe a slightly different opinion than some folks. I do agree wholeheartedly that Biden is an idiot, that he has not handled this correctly at all. But in terms of allowing the Ukrainians to use the weapons to their fullest capability, I do believe that should have been the case from the very beginning. So if you go back to...
Look, I agree with you I agree with you that, the time to unleash was 2 years ago. Not now.
Absolutely.
This is a joke. This is the stupidity of and the incompetence of Joe Biden and his administration.
Yes, absolutely. So, if you look at the weapons that have been supplied so far, the only reason they weren't successful in their assault on Kyiv was because of the Javelin missile. And then the only reason that the Donbass lines were stabilized was because of HIMARS. Right. And now with ATACMS, they have an opportunity to push them back even further out of the range of the ATACMS.
Right.
But that should have been done at the very beginning.
Correct.
And had they done that, that would have been the best for all of us.
Had they put them on the ground before, as 70,000 troops from Russia were amassing, before they were fully amassed, sitting there.
Exactly. And so... Had
a person that's got a brain and a big set of cojones down there, put it on the table like Trump, this wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing is, in terms of continuing to supply weapons to Ukraine, absolutely give them everything we can, because the more we give them, that's the less blood and treasure of U.S. people that we have to eventually lose.
And that's where I disagree, because Russia is not going to come attack us or kill us.
No, they won't. Not in the U.S., not likely. But people like Biden could draw us into putting troops on the ground in Ukraine.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that's not going to happen. We're not going to let it as a country. One of the reasons why is we put Donald Trump in office. But with Joe Biden, anything could happen. This guy's an absolute moron.
That is true. That is true.
Well, I appreciate your call tonight, Aaron. Thank you very much, sir. So I think the time to just unload was before, and time to not unload, but the time to build up and to scare the crap out of Putin and say, you're not going to want to do this, here's why, was beforehand. And that wasn't done. That's why this happened to begin with. And second of all, if you're going to arm them and do things to the hilt, you do that before this happens. And this whole thing is happening because of Joe Biden. And a wider war breakout could happen now, much more likely, as he continues to pour stuff in and let them do things they never were allowed to do up until now, and more and more. This is very scary right now. These last 7 weeks are very scary, I'm sorry to say, but they are. And not because of Putin, but because of Joe Biden. Coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, should you be allowed... Or is it okay for you to let your 11-year-old son, your 11-year-old child, is it okay to let your 11-year-old walk a mile into town in rural America? And even if it's not into town, but let's say it's a mile to a 7-Eleven or a grocery store, should your 11-year-old be allowed to do that? Or should that be a crime? It's happened. A mother's been charged. And you're not going to believe the extent of it. It gets worse when you hear about CPS being involved and this is insane. You'll hear about it all coming up next. It's all over the news on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. You'll hear the body cam in just a moment of the arrest, and then you'll hear how CPS has come up with a plan for this woman. You're not going to believe this. Her 11-year-old son spotted walking less than a mile from her home, walking alongside the road in downtown Mineral Bluff, Georgia, a town of just 370 people, when a woman asked if he was okay. Even though he said he was fine, she called police anyway. Deputy came to the boy and drove him home. They came back a few hours later and arrested mom for reckless conduct in front of her children. Day after her arrest, a case manager from DCFS, which is their CPS, arrived at her house for a home visit, even interviewed her oldest son at his school. Holy crap. Case manager told mom everything seemed fine, but a few days later, DCFS, which is our version of CPS, presented her with a safety plan for her to sign. It would require her to delegate a safety person to be a knowing participant and guardian and watch over the children whenever she leaves home. Wow, you think she was like a drug-addled welfare queen or something. The plan would also require Patterson to download an app onto her son's phone to monitor his location, something she refuses to do. Are all parents going to have to put a GPS on their child, Mom says? How was I recklessly endangering my child? We're not talking about it. Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to a store. Deputy said it's when they're 10 years old. He apparently just turned 11 on that day. If she was being compelled to, let me play this for you. This is the body cam on the arrest.
What am I under arrest for?
For reckless endangerment.
And how was I recklessly endangering my child?
We're not talking about it.
I wasn't concerned. I wasn't, panicking or concerned because it's just a short walk from our house. He knows how to get home. He knows how to get there. Call mommy and tell him they're taking me to jail because you decided to walk down the street.
Let go of your hands. That's not his fault.
Yeah, call mommy.
You're the mother. That's your responsibility.
Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to the store.
It is when they're 10 years old.
Our criminal justice system is built on the fact that you did something or you were negligent. You did something criminally negligent. So what is it she did?
That's her attorney, I believe. And it gets worse, but I wanted to just put this out there. I mean, do you remember when you were 11? Did your parents allow you to go out and go down to a store a mile away? I remember when I grew up in the 70s, man, and I love it. And I used to go to what was called the Ben Franklin, which is like a CVS into town, which is probably like 4 miles away. I don't know. maybe 5, I don't know, 3 to 5, and on my bicycle. I remember I used to follow my brother and his friends who always wanted to ditch me because they're 2 years older. We'd take our bikes, we'd go through this around a Byzantine way to get to a forest preserve, which is about a half mile from us, and then we'd go deep into the forest preserve on our bikes and go fishing and spend the whole day out there, nowhere near where we could hear my mom yelling. I knew we'd get in trouble. Sometimes I'd be staring around going, okay, I'm going to get busted here. I got to wrap this up. I'd go fishing, all sorts of fun, wild things as a kid, and the good stuff, and I never got arrested. And think about this, whether 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. Hey, and by the way, have times really changed? People like to say, well, it's different now. It is not. I'll address that coming up next. It is not different. Humans have not metamorphosized into worse people than they already were then. When I was a kid, you have just as many people that are sick and demented and evil than you are now. I mean, John Wayne Gacy was 30 minutes from my home when it happened when I was growing up. So no, that's the same thing then, same thing now. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Do you feel that letting your kid walk a mile into town should be a crime? Would you let your 11-year-old child walk a mile on his or her own? Were you allowed to do that when you were 11, and have things really changed that much since then? Miss Kathy in Fort Worth, WBAP, hello.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Chris, when I was a child, we walked further than that to school. We walked further than that to go to the stockyard,
right?
To go to the ISIS theater.
Right.
Get out of here. They worried about this 11-year-old. His mother trained him well to not get in the middle of the road and get run over. He avoided the cars. He obeyed his parents. He's capable of that's being responsible. If you miss the bus, as I told my children, you miss the bus, you better make sure you get to school.
I don't
care if you had to walk, crawl, or you better get there and be on time.
I like your parenting. I like it a lot. Do you agree with me?
How will these children be independent?
They're going to be dependent on the government. It seems like, how do I be safe?
Not.
Yeah. Tell me what to do. How do I do this? How do I do that? Can you believe this? You're not going to believe. The mom, they want her to come up with a parenting plan.
She already had one. She didn't need theirs.
This is insane. Miss Kathy, I appreciate your call very much.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Please keep calling. I like your call. Very good call. Thank you very much. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Should allowing your 11-year-old son or daughter to walk a mile down the street to a store or into town, should that be a crime? Would you let your 11-year-old child walk a mile on his or her own? Were you allowed to do that when you were 11? And have things really changed that much since then? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I cannot wait to get back into this with you. Coming up next, plus you're going to hear about this plan that they came up with. There's a plan, and the DA has a deal for her if she'll just sign off on this. You're not going to believe this. That's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show at 33 after the hour, plus your call. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And more audio of Mom when greeted with this plan, this parenting plan, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.
What am I under arrest for?
For reckless endangerment.
And how was I recklessly endangering my child?
We're not talking about it.
But I wasn't concerned. I wasn't, panicking or concerned because it's just a short walk from our house. He knows how to get home. He knows how to get there. Call mommy and tell him they're taking you to jail because you decided to walk down the street.
Let go of your hands.
That's not his fault.
Yeah, call mommy.
You're the mother. That's your responsibility.
Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to the store.
It is when they're 10 years old.
Our criminal justice system is built on the fact that you did something or you were negligent. You did something criminally negligent. So what is it she did?
So this mother let her child, who's 10, who actually turned 11, walk a mile into town. She lives in rural Georgia, and the town has 370 people in it. And she let him walk a mile to go into town, which he does fairly regularly. And a woman was driving by. I know she meant well. She asked the boy if the boy was okay. Boy said, absolutely fine. Yes, why? She goes, okay, you sure? Yeah, okay. And she still calls the police anyway. And the sheriff's deputies come, pick the boy up, drop him off at home, and then several hours later come back and arrest mom. And she is told by the DA, I will drop the charges if you will sign a deal to create a plan to protect your child. It would require her to delegate a safety person. Let me say this too, it gets worse. The day after she was arrested, can you believe she was arrested and jailed for this? A case manager from DCFS, which is our CPS, if you will, they arrived at her house for a home visit, even interviewed her oldest son at his school. The case manager told her everything seemed fine, but a few days later, DCFS presented her with a safety plan for her to sign. He would require her to delegate a safety person to be a knowing participant and guardian and watch over the child whenever she leaves home. This is as if she is a bank robber, child molester, sexual deviant, or a drug addict. The plan would also require her to download an app. This is insane. Download an app to her son's cell phone to monitor his location, something she refuses to do. Are all parents going to have to put a GPS on their child? How was I recklessly endangering my child? We're not talking about it. Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to the store. Deputy said it is when they're 10. Well, apparently the boy just turned 11, but regardless. The DA says he will drop the charges if she was cuffed and put in jail. But I'll drop the charges after I've jailed you and wronged you and made you all over the news and made you look horrible, if you will sign a safety plan. A safety plan. It's like she birthed a crack baby or something. You are compelled to sign a safety plan because your son walked somewhere without her knowing his exact location, if she signs a safety plan. He would be prevented from, the safety plan means he would be prevented from visiting friends or having any independence whatsoever, because the safety plan would not allow him to go anywhere without her knowing. The district attorney maintained that her son had been in danger, therefore a safety plan was necessary. She faces a reckless conduct charge or a $1,000 fine and a year in jail. So the safety plan would mean he can't visit friends or have any independence whatsoever, because he can't go see people and go places on his own as a young boy, 11-year-old boy. Here's mom about the plan. This is a plan. You need to sign a safety plan. This is a plan. This will protect you. Shove your plan up your butt. Here we go.
I just felt like I couldn't sign that, and that in doing so would be agreeing that there was something unsafe about my home or something unsafe about my parental decisions, and I just don't believe that.
So I'm glad she didn't sign it. She has lawyers, and she's going to fight it, and they're going to lose. This is embarrassing, isn't it? I think about all the places you went to when you were 11 or 12. Our last caller, she was spot on. I've heard walking to school, having her kids walk to school. I love it. She says, if you miss the bus, you're walking to school. In other words, get your butt out of bed, get there on time, or you're going to walk, and you're going to learn the hard way. Now, granted, this was when I was in high school, a freshman and such, but I would walk all the way to school. It was like a mile and a half, 2 miles, I think, because it was too far out from the bus to get a bus, I think, as it was. And but the other thing was, we used to go to 7-Eleven. We used to go to a grocery store, which were different directions, but it was at least a mile. So no, when I was, when I was, and I know 14 is different, but I'm just saying when I was 14, I used to walk to high school as a freshman, and then I walked, like 15 minutes down a busy road, and then up another several, like 8 blocks to go to my work. I worked after school. But when I was also a kid, we used to go to convenience stores. We used to go to grocery stores. It's part of being a kid. Getting on your bike and going places, or going to visit your friends. It's okay to want them to check in. Hey, are you okay? Everything good? I think on stuff like that, a cell phone would be warranted so that the kid can call you if something's going on or like something's weird happening or, whatever. But I'm not against them walking and going to places. And it certainly isn't a crime. So, and by the way, the idea that some people have that somehow it's worse today, and that's a pretty regular pattern of people that call in on this kind of stuff and say, Chris, I disagree with you, and it's just not the same anymore. I strongly disagree. I want to tell you more about that in a second. But do you feel this should actually be a crime? And would you let your 11-year-old child walk a mile on his or her own? Were you allowed to do this when you were 11? And have things really changed that much since then? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. Lines wide open for the first time in a while tonight. But I don't think things have changed. I think humanity, people are just as bad, evil today than they were when I was 11. I don't think it's changed. I think you have the same amount of bankrupt, broken, and bad and evil type of people than you do now. You have many, many, many more ways of you hearing about people doing bad stuff, and you getting scared and being overly protective and such. But I think there's a delicate balance, and I think that letting these kids go places from time to time is very healthy for their independence. So this is insane. This is really insane. Why in God's name in rural Georgia would you be doing this? I also understand too, if a woman or a man, parent has previous issues, that's one thing. But this woman has no issues whatsoever that we're aware of anything. How shaming to do this to a mother and this poor kid. Man. And by the way, let me tell you something else. I don't mind a concerned adult saying, "You okay? Everything okay?" But after that, he said yes, and that's it. She was saying, "No, I don't approve of this. I'm going to be a helicopter parent for you." So, no, not good, not good. And by the way, the woman who called the cops, I wonder if she is grateful that mom has been arrested. I think this is one of these kinds of things where that sheriff and that DA are going to be embarrassed and ridiculed into just saying, "Fine, we're wrong." Probably within a few days or so, but this is crazy. Okay. Now, I want to ask you something else. I want to shift gears on something else. Whoopi Goldberg, you've probably heard about this. Whoopi Goldberg went to a bakery in New York City on Staten Island and asked to order this specific dessert that is only made by this bakery, period. It's made nowhere else, and it is for sure because when you find out what the dessert is, and that this baker knows I'm the only one in the country that makes this. And so Whoopi ordered these certain type of cupcakes. They ended up calling her back and saying, "Sorry, we cannot honor this order. Our boiler is broken and we can't do it. We're not going to be able to do it." So then Whoopi strolls into her show that is, I believe, watched by millions of liberal hens and miserable, liberal, unattractive hens. And she tells them that this bakery refused to make her cupcakes for her. And it's because she's a liberal. Now, I want to get into that coming up next as well on the Chris Crock Show. But first, let's go to Nathan in Saginaw calling in about the mother arrested for letting her 11-year-old son walk a mile. Nathan, and you are on WBAP. What do you got?
Well, thank you, sir.
Hey, there you are. It's you. Appreciate you. You come into my mind sometimes in the middle of the day. I'm like, that guy's freaking hysterical. I like that guy. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say back in the 60s when I was kid, grade school, and my mother, she'd send me to the store after cigarettes, and I bet
yes!
they didn't fly these
yes!
days.
Go ahead. So she sent you in the 60s to get smokes? She sent you in the 60s to get a pack of smokes, you said? Can you hear me? Hold on. Can you hear me, bro? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, hold on. Wait, hold on. Are you there? Oh, I don't know what happened. Call back in, Nathan. Sound like he said in the 60s his mom sent him to get a pack of smokes. Call back in, Nathan, 800-288-WBP. I don't know what happened, 800-288-9227. Let me know if that's Nathan. Is that him? Anyways, we'll go to Dan in Corpus Christi. Hey, Dan in beautiful Corpus Christi. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. Hey, my mom must be the Al Capone of mothers.
Absolutely.
In 1968, when I was 11, I was in Minneapolis, North Minneapolis, and
I lived there for 2 years. I loved it. Go ahead.
Really?
Yeah, I was in Roseville, and I was also in St. Paul, right by downtown, at Indian Mountains Burial Park. I had a house there.
I know exactly where you're talking.
Excellent.
I was at 50th and Girard, North Minneapolis.
Excellent.
And I was allowed to skip school for opening day of baseball season because I was birthed a baseball fanatic.
I love that.
And I rode the city bus, which took 11 connections.
Wow.
To get from North Minneapolis to Bloomington, where the old stadium was. Took 3.5 hours. And this was way before cell phones. So, I mean.
And how old were you?
11.
There you go. And now our children are they're not independent. And, if God forbid something bad happens, they're screwed.
Yeah, they have no idea.
They're obese.
How to take care of themselves.
They're obese.
And I can tell you, in those days, there were some creepy people on the city buses.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, I don't call it the mugger mover for nothing.
Yeah,
a Minneapolis cop I met on vacation in Cancun. He called it the jail rail. He calls it the jail rail.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah.
But it just, we grew up different. There was more responsibility. I mean, I remember growing up where, during the summer at that age, I'd leave the house on my bicycle at 8:00 in the morning, and the rule was I had to be home
for dinner
when the street lights came on.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so listen, last question. I got to go, but real fast. Last question. I mean, people are not more evil or worse today than they were back then, are they?
Oh, hell no.
Exactly. I great call, Dan. Really appreciate you very much, my friend. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Look forward to your next call. We got Nathan back. We got Ronald in Richardson. And your call as well coming up. 2 lines open, 800-288-WBAP. Let's get you on back to back quickly. Coming up next at 51 after the hour on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Mom arrested for letting her 11-year-old walk a mile into town to get something from the store or whatever, go to the store, and she's like, why? What is there? Why is this happening? What did I do wrong? What did the kid do wrong? He's 11. Let him walk to the store. Let him walk in town a mile. It brings back memories of us. I mean, do you feel this should be a crime? Would you let your 11-year-old child walk a mile on his or her own? And weren't you allowed to do this when you were 11? And have things really changed that much since then? And no, they haven't. Don't lie to yourself. There's just as many bad people today as there were back then. You do hear about it a lot more, but nonetheless, we are getting obese and raising our children to be dependent on others, to be obese, overweight, and lazy and afraid. It's really sad. We were awaiting Nathan to call back. Nathan, go ahead and finish off. You said your mom in the 60s would tell you to go buy a pack of smokes for her. And how old are you?
Well, I was in grade school. It must have been in the
I love it.
Sixth grade.
Okay.
However old you are then.
Did you skim some of the smokes off her?
No, but she would give me the change.
There you go.
I had a jar full after a while.
It's so funny that you could go buy them, and my wife's dad, who's late in his age, he used to be able to. He started smoking when he was like 13. God bless America.
I was chewing tobacco at 13.
There you go. God bless America. Nathan, I appreciate your call. Well, we lived in a particular far-flung suburb of Chicago when I was 12, and I was snagging smokes from various places that were not okay to do, but I was. Let's go next to Ronald. Ronald in Richardson. You're on WBAP. Hey, Ronald.
Yeah, what I'm calling for is on the girl walking, the mother being arrested and that.
Yeah.
Okay, I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. Back in the 50s, I would get on my bike in the summertime, leave the house, pack a lunch, and tell my mom I'll be home for dinner. She didn't know where I was going.
There you go.
Me and my buddies, we would take off for the entire day, and we just go and, sometimes a half a mile from the house, sometimes 3 or 4 miles from the house. We didn't care, and at that time, as long as you're home by dinner, no problem.
I love it. And I'm sure my parents have similar stories. They grew up on the northwest side of Chicago, and all my folks used to live in that area. Now my folks actually moved back into the city, which probably surprised you, along with some of my immediate relatives. But in a nice area, very nice area. So. Yeah. So anyways, Ronald, great to hear your call, and I agree with you. I think that's awesome. By the way, no White Sox, yes Cubs.
Yeah.
Oh, you agree?
Well, the way both teams are playing,
it's irrelevant, right?
That's right.
Thanks, Ronald. Appreciate it. All right, let's see here. We got time for one more or two more. Let's next go to Philip in Garland. Hey, Philip.
Hey, this is just a joke. It's more control by the woke and the left. And one of the two callers ago, he said something about responsibility. We have more responsibility. Well, how is anybody ever going to learn responsibility if they're not given freedom?
Right.
So it's freedom with responsibility. And why we're so screwed up? We're on our heels walking backwards, because why are we even answering this thing about someone telling us how to raise our kids again?
Agreed.
In 6th grade, I skateboarded from Northwest Highway and Lake Highlands to over Adelia and Skillman.
There you go.
For an 8th grade girl I was dating every day after school, just to spend about 2 hours with her before her mom came home.
There you go. Now you might have to dodge some bullets in that area with some of the Section 8 housing, but other than that, you'd be fine. I go there all the time for friends in the area. Appreciate you very much, Philip. Great call. Do we have time for one more or no? All right. I'm sorry, Kathy and Granbury, but